Have you ever been peacefully playing Minecraft and suddenly existentially wondered why everything exists? Like, why are these things here? Why do they matter? What's the story behind this children's video game? Well, I've been covering Minecraft history for multiple years, and I've sourced from my channel the 25 most interesting moments of all time, starting with some that are just cool and slowly ramping up to single moments that change the entire game forever. So without further ado, why did they add this loading screen? It just struck me as really odd, so I looked into it, and it's not a random pattern. It's actually a real-time graph of how Minecraft generates worlds. And after trying to understand whatever the f this is, I think I figured out what everything means. So it's tough to notice more than like 5 colors, but there's actually 11 here representing different stages of generation. The super bright green is particularly interesting though. This is where it generates what are called features, which include trees, ice spikes, and even dungeons, which means dungeons aren't technically structures. So the world's generated, I sound like a fucking nerd, and only one question remains. Why does this matter? Well, using it, you can sort of predict where you'll spawn. Loading faster means you'll spawn in an emptier biome, and if the animation starts off center and corrects itself, you'll be near lava or water. The generation for each seed is also completely unique, like a snowflake, and the pattern's also different when you're just joining a world you've already generated, which is how speedrun moderators can tell if people cheat using a set seed. I thought this was interesting. This dude could always tell when his mod would crash because the world gen screen had a few pixels messed up. Everyone, give him an up, dude. World gen is cool and all, but there's a lot more hidden within the gameplay itself. Like, what are these weird symbols in the enchantment table? That's right, I'm gonna teach you the enchantment table language. But hang on, let's be polite. It has a name. The standard galactic alphabet was created by this dude Tom Hall to give otherworldly vibes in his game series called Commander Keen. And then the developer, Notch, just took it. I'm guessing he played these games growing up, and since he was still an indie developer, he didn't consider the problems with just stealing assets. Luckily, good old Tom didn't mind. But as you'll see later in this video, this actually kind of becomes a pattern of Notch's behavior. He's not the best dude. But on the bright side, this is a functional alphabet, so you can translate it. If you were hoping for some secret there, though, the enchantment table just strings together random bullshit.
What the f is he doing?
Actually, the biggest nerd I've ever met. Okay,
but here's something a lot weirder. You know these? The reason you probably muted your ambient sounds? Well, there's a reason they exist, and it fucking has to do with Herobrine. By the way, credit to Orange for like most of the information in this section. Since the beginning, people have always found Minecraft creepy as hell. There originally wasn't anything intentional causing this, it just had that effect. So the game's composer, C418, decided to do a little prank. He added 16 different eldritch horrors to randomly play underground, and they successfully freaked people out. I will never go in caves again. I nearly shat mining peacefully when you notice the stone you're facing has turned darker. You turn around to witness your entire cavalcade of torches, all placed on the cavern wall, disappear until the last one vaporizes. The stark blackness of the cave ambience strikes you hard. You feel like you should run to the surface, but you decide that sitting down would be the better option. It comforts you. I'm sorry, but C418 wasn't done yet. After a big influx of players, he had an even worse idea.
Okay. Imagine there's this creepy music in caves, and when people try to find where it's coming from, they just find some random, unremarkable spot.
That's too much.
I already made the song.
Fine, I guess I could shove it in dungeon chests.
Bro, SkyBoi, you're running out of ideas for skits. This is just exposition.
Wait, where do you live?
The US? Why?
Oh, you should move to the Middle East, because at least then you could pay a matchmaker to get you a girlfriend. Even if C418's original idea didn't happen, the song is not exactly chill. Especially because that part implies someone else was in the world before you. Notch obviously never actually added a monster, but the community still developed mass hysteria. This wasn't helped by a graphical glitch where you could sometimes see white pixels between blocks. It's just because blocks weren't perfectly next to each other, but all players knew at the time was it was weird. So, Notch had been doing secret Friday updates where he didn't tell anyone what he added. There's creepy playing in caves and inexplicable white pixels flickering in the corners of the screen. This is what sparked Herobrine, who would plague young children of the Minecraft community for years to come. Him and like every YouTuber. But what those young children might not have been aware of is that Notch actually developed a second version of Minecraft. And while it was never finished, many of its features have ended up in the main game. Okay, the year was 2011. The Ludum Dare Game Jam was about to hold its 22nd session, and this time, one of the participants was Notch. It wasn't his first time, but this one caught the most attention because his submission was Minicraft. It's basically 2D Minecraft, even down to the randomized worlds. It is also the name of a Minecraft clone in the App Store. But okay, for context, Ludum Dare gives you 48 hours to make a game based on a theme, which this time was alone. So, Notch based his submission around killing the only other sentient being in the game, the Air Wizard, which ignores the fact that there's zombies and slimes everywhere. So, in other words, Notch already had the idea and made up bullshit to get it to fit. So I compiled his old code together, and Oh, let's go. First thing I notice is that these are not Minecraft's textures. Notch tended to reuse textures in random projects, which could mean this game was a little more important to him. I'm noticing there's an energy system here. It's really fucking annoying. This isn't Minecraft, trust me. It's very different. You press X instead of E. Get fucked, bitch. I think oh my god. Press C to lose. There's a lot in this game for like being made in 48 hours. Bro was grinding. I know a lot of people say like Terraria is 2D Minecraft, but this is doing the opposite direction. This game actually looks a lot like Forager. Oh, you know what's nice is I don't think there's durability. Minecraft should like also do that. That would be great. Ooh, okay, I don't like that. Oh my god, hate this so much, this is horrible. How does anyone play this game? Wow, I guess I really didn't like that game. Minicraft obviously has a lot of parallels to Minecraft, but more importantly, quite a few Minicraft features ended up in the main game. Most of them were after Notch left development, so probably unrelated, but there's a case to be made for a few of these. Before Notch left though, he did something else. And it's something he probably wouldn't want you to know. If you're in the 4% of people who've beaten the Ender Dragon, you'll have seen what's called the End Poem. It's these two supposed higher beings discussing the player, and the meaning is very subjective and I'm not an English teacher. But what I can talk about is the upsetting story of how the poem got there. In 2011, Notch was preparing for Minecraft's official launch, and he had a problem. His game didn't have an ending, so he furiously drafted a tweet. This got him in contact with Julian, who he'd briefly met 2 years before. Julian was a niche, but not a known writer, whose style I can best describe as spiritual, and after sending a sample of his work, he was hired. Everything from this point on is directly from Julian's blog post, by the way.
Any guidelines?
Nope.
Okay, can some bits of text look encrypted?
Sure.
That's actually why this effect exists, by the way. But to get a feel for Minecraft, Julian spent the next couple weeks playing it with his daughter, and once he was familiar with it, he says the words of the poem just flowed out of him. Notch ended up loving it and didn't cut a single thing. But during Notch's artsy, friendly talks with Julian, he referred him to his friend, Carl, to get paid. Carl was not a friend. Carl was a ruthless business graduate and major shareholder at Mojang. Notch made him sound so non-threatening, Julian negotiated as if Carl was just trying to come to a fair agreement. But as Julian explained his detailed artistic vision, Carl got fed up. Carl said $20,000 of the deals off with some vague promise to promote his work. Minecraft was worth $100 million and sold 50 copies a minute. Julian wasn't super aware of this though, and he was broke, so he just took it.
I'll send the contract soon.
Okay. I haven't signed anything yet. Why did I get paid?
In the confusion, someone must have sent the money, but it was another month before he actually got the contract. And when he finally did, he was kind of frustrated. I mean, how could he meaningfully consent to a contract he didn't even see before they used the story? So he didn't sign it. Good on him. Shortly after this, Notch randomly paid an $120,000 bonus to all 25 of his employees, which is 6 times what Julian got for his actual work. He was financially struggling, and Carl still hadn't promoted him like he promised, so Julian tried to take things into his own hands. He asked Notch if he could have a little shout out somewhere, and Notch just said no, leaving Julian embarrassed for even trying. A few years go by, and Carl randomly sends him a reminder with the contract attached. This time though, Julian actually reads it. Apparently, he would have signed away all his rights to his work in perpetuity, something he explicitly told Carl he wouldn't do. It also had an NDA, so he couldn't even take credit for his own poem. Julian was outraged, but he also wondered why Carl was reminding him now of all times, so he looked into it and found Microsoft was about to buy Mojang for $2.5 billion. Most of that would go to Notch, but some of it would be given to the other 2 shareholders, which happened to include Carl. Microsoft's lawyers were just doing their due diligence, making sure Mojang owned what it said it did, and Carl had to scramble to get the rights to the poem they'd already been using. This was the one thing preventing the deal from going through. And Julian, once again, refused to sign the contract. Carl fired back, saying the vague emails where he threatened to drop Julian were suddenly enough for Microsoft, and the $2.5 billion deal went through. Notch was also pissed after hearing Julian's refusal. Julian was left with no money, reading headlines about Notch's record-breaking mansion and considering his options. He could sue and probably win, or what he actually ended up doing. He dedicated his poem to the public domain, meaning you could sell it on a t-shirt if you wanted. Julian sometimes regrets not bringing in an agent, but even after all this bullshit, he's still able to see Carl's perspective.
I think Carl, with his background as a corporate finance guy, must have believed I was trying to blackmail them, trying to maximize my revenue like the rational agents that populate economics textbooks.
This really sucks. This blessing of a person got his work ripped by one of the richest companies in the world, and it's not even like there's anything we can do about it. I will say though, when he came forward with this story, he got an incredible amount of support. His subscriber numbers for updates on like his book that's coming out literally tripled in the first 24 hours. It was also the top post on r/Minecraft and got picked up by a couple news organizations. With that being said, I would bet most of you still didn't know this happened. Microsoft's been doing a very good job of keeping it from going mainstream. So this is my small and probably fruitless attempt to change that. Julian's story really is tragic. Silent a palate cleanser! Did you know PETA, the animal rights organization that's extremely controversial, had a Minecraft server? Launched in 2014, it had beautiful gardens, building competitions, and a recreation of their headquarters. Oh yeah, and the abandoned slaughterhouse! They had a plugin to prevent animal abuse, which was really stupid. It just sent goofy messages and blocked PvE. At one point, they even hosted an animal rights rally in-game, which is awesome. But 2 days later,
I'm keeping him. Leave him there. Just kidding.
PETA was so appalled at this outrageous act of violence that they shut down the entire server. And like, yeah, it's objectively stupid and funny. But it's stunts like this that have undeniably brought animal suffering to the mainstream, so you gotta admit they're doing something right. I think my biggest issue with them is they just spread a lot of misinformation. You know what? I'm going vegan. Hungry. Yummy yum! Good shit, bro. PETA's Minecraft server was definitely quite odd, but over in the nation of Turkey, Minecraft was at risk of being banned. When the game was first blowing up, the Turkish media took that personally. There was a huge frenzy about it being a violent hellscape unfit for children, and they frequently compared it to GTA. Arai, like many other children, was playing one of the most popular games, Minecraft. At the time, his parents weren't home. When he reached the swing section of the game, he decided to try it out. In real life, he hung the belt he found on the balcony and began playing with it. Yeah, they're basically about to say that he hung himself because of the swing level in Minecraft. F*** off. Because that exists! This eventually prompted an investigation by the Turkish government on whether to ban the game. Obviously, this was extremely funny and got widely reported on internationally. But after the situation blew up, the Turkish government backed off and denied ever trying to ban it. Although, because of all this coverage, people internationally seem to just think it's banned there. Captain Sparkles even went as far to say that this ban inspired the Love and Hugs April Fool's update.
You may have heard in the news recently that Minecraft was banned in the country of Turkey because they felt that the game was too violent. I believe this may have been Mojang's response to that. See, I can jump off another cliff.
Not sure why he thought that, but maybe? Speaking of Minecraft April Fool's jokes, there's one that stands out from the rest. Minecraft Plus. Every joke from the previous 3 years and the 4 years since was in the form of an in-game update. But this one was a pack of Windows screensavers. Did Microsoft tell them they needed to promote Windows? Okay, to be fair, there's quite a few of them and they're well made. It's just so exceedingly random. But also, this has got to be the most inconsequential Minecraft secret ever. So how about when the United Nations made a Minecraft server? Back in 2011, the UN reached out to Mojang to form a partnership. The project was to be called Block by Block, and it aimed to recreate real-world environments in Minecraft, but better. They hired a well-known building team, Fire UK, to recreate a settlement in Kenya called Kibera, and then they opened the server to people living in the area. Through Minecraft, people who didn't go to Harvard for architecture and urban planning could make the much-needed changes their community needed. Then, the UN went in and funded those changes in real life. Since then, they've repeated this kind of thing in 54 countries and impacted the lives of nearly 3 million people. And this actually isn't the only time Minecraft's done a big charity initiative like this. I know it's a big company and they're probably doing it for PR, but their other project was called Coral Crafters. It happened around the time of Update Aquatic with the goal of rejuvenating coral reefs. They got a couple YouTubers to send in Minecraft builds, and then they put them in the ocean in real life.
What we do then is we apply a low voltage trickle electrical charge. The electrical current causes limestone minerals to grow on top of the steel. What we discovered right away was that we got corals to grow many times faster than normal.
I feel you getting dangerously close to clicking off because it's not Minecraft enough. Fuck you. Did you know there's an official edition of Minecraft from 15 years ago that looks like this? It's called Minecraft 4K, where you're confined to this small, randomly generated, lifeless expanse. If you try to leave, you'll find it impossible. The textures are reminiscent of alpha, but slightly off. However, there's actually a reason for this. It was Notch, the creator of Minecraft's submission to a contest called Java 4K. Basically, you have to fit your entire game submission into just 4 kilobytes. And for comparison, regular Minecraft takes over 1 million, and it's still considered light. So to meet this insane requirement, texture files were too big, so they had to be randomly generated when the game starts. Now, Minecraft 4K was just Notch having some fun. But what happens when Minecraft's brand is licensed out purely for money? Minecraft ice cream. That's what. In collaboration with a Swedish ice cream brand called Nix, they released 4 different Minecraft ice cream flavors.
I don't know why it's an emerald. Emeralds aren't edible. That is minty. It's like I'm eating cold toothpaste.
But that's not even the weirdest collaboration they've done. They did one with fucking Pringles. And this time, I actually got my hands on them because they were in the grocery store. Normally I don't eat Pringles because I'm gluten intolerant, but I figured it was worth the exception this time. I was wrong, they sucked ass. I don't know why I thought I'd like the flavor of spicy TNT. It was just like red peppers. But would you believe me if I told you the brand collaborations get worse? Manga, which I also bought because I'm such a good consumer. I never read a manga in my entire life, but I was willing to give it a try, until the first page described the main character as a rookie crafter, and I just gave up. I did check a review online, and it seems like it's just an inoffensive manga for kids. But you know what's definitely not an inoffensive manga for kids? The Americans who raided the Danish government's Minecraft server in 2014. In a groundbreaking strategic initiative to leverage geographic data, the Danish Geodata Agency executed the launch of an immersive Minecraft recreation of their entire country. But rather than engaging in resource-intensive manual building, they harnessed cutting-edge algorithmic automation to seamlessly transform topographic data into an interactive Minecraft world. After an optimized 2-month agile development cycle, the final product achieved an unprecedented level of granularity, even down to fences and signs. But unfortunately for them, the Americans found it. In the words of a CNN article, which I find absolutely hilarious,
somehow, these vandals were able to infiltrate virtual Denmark while sneaking in virtual Dynamite, at which point they virtually demolished parts of virtual Copenhagen. What's interesting is that the use of this virtual Dynamite was actually banned on the Danish server, but the ever-cunning vandals discovered they could sneak it in inside a virtual mining cart.
Basically, they blew up a bunch of shit and placed American flags. Luckily, however, another country saw this and learned from Denmark's mistakes. By installing an anti-griefing plugin. Geocraft was created by a Dutch science center, or basically a museum, called Geofort. Except instead of just using topographic data, they aimed to do a lot of the work by hand. They did generate the basic terrain, but then they crowdsourced people to build every single major landmark in the country, like the capital city of Amsterdam. Between these two methods, they ended up with a pretty complete recreation. Since then, they've partnered with several different organizations, including the University of Amsterdam, which is apparently a really good school. The coolest part to me, though, is they have a command set up to teleport to any address. Then there's also /Wabajak to tell you what address you're currently at and send you a Google Maps link. This would have come in handy. Yo, Fia, what's your address?
DMs. Bad news, guys, it doesn't have my house.
Now, this cannot be a video on weird things in Minecraft history without mentioning Minecraft 2. It was super recent, so I'm sure you've heard of it, but this is the full story. Notch tweeted a poll asking whether he should make this roguelike game he's been passionately working on, or Minecraft 2. And at this point, Notch has fuck you money. He doesn't need to make Minecraft 2. It seems like he didn't even particularly want to. He begged his Twitter audience to vote for the first option. But despite all that, Minecraft 2 obviously won.
I basically announced Minecraft 2. It'd be a spiritual successor to Minecraft.
People were hyped. There's dozens of replies clearly sucking his dick. Then there's also replies making fun of him for being racist. Are the villagers Jews?
No.
Are the Endermen African Americans? But literally 4 days later.
Yo, can I make Minecraft 2?
If you do that, we'll be seeing you in court.
Kind regards. Talk to the fellas at the office. Looks like we're making levers and chests.
So now he's working on this other game called Levers and Chests instead. Okay. By the way, I'm sorry for subjecting you to so many Notch tweets. They're almost like Trump tweets. You know, for no particular reason, that reminds me of a Minecraft server that did a crypto scam. In case you somehow don't know, cryptocurrency is a digital currency that you can't really buy much with, but sometimes the price goes up and you make a little bit of money. In 2022, Mojang banned crypto, which was great, but it made me wonder, what was the project that caused them to do it? Minecrypto came onto the scene when they posted this trailer in late 2021. Their gameplay looks cookie cutter at best, and the ranks they sold were NFTs that you can buy with crypto. They advertised a play-to-earn system which worked by having daily quests with rewards that you can redeem in their cryptocurrency, which sounds great, but there's a catch. In order for it to be worth the time, you're gonna have to multiply your earnings by buying one of their ranks. And if you want to convert the crypto to real money, you're gonna at least need their lowest rank. They earn a profit by people having to buy into their ecosystem with real money in order to earn fake money on their stupid Minecraft server. They also claim it's sustainable somehow. What I find more interesting though is this page on their website. They really want you to know how much they don't go against the EULA. But, I mean, they do. Firstly, with the way they did their early access, but it's actually also against the EULA to pay out real money, which they did. And then they broke the same rule a second time by letting you withdraw your crypto to real money. But okay, you're caught up. That's Mine Crypto in its initial state. For the next 4 months or so, they pumped out frequent updates to keep the hype going. Like this new game they invented. They started announcing partnerships. A lot of them. Like 9 different partnerships in just like 2 months. It kind of looks like they're trying to cash out. And less than 2 weeks later, Minecraft announced that they banned crypto. They responded in their Discord server naturally with an announcement talking about it. They said they were pausing things until they could figure out a way to circumvent it, basically. That was their last announcement. It looks like there was a minimal refund, but I see a lot of deleted messages and a couple people complaining that they lost money. So, what the f happened? Okay, to start, Mine Crypto LLC is not a real company. They just call it that to make it seem a little more legit. But there is a part of their code that appears to block people from holding too much of the coin. Looks like it's to prevent market manipulation. And then a way for them to just bypass it. To me, it seems like what they've done is pump a bunch of their own money into the project. And that makes it look really good, so tons of other people put their money into it. And then they sell, taking all that money with them. They responded to people's concerns by blaming it on the unstable market. So who's behind this project that appears to be a scam? Well, it's probably not someone from the Minecraft community. I mean, just look.
What is your favorite part of hashtag Minecraft? Hashtag NFT.
They claim it's a Spanish TikToker with 600k, but I have my doubts. As far as I can tell, he's never mentioned this project on his social medias, and the Discord account claiming to be him does not have any of his social medias connected to it. He did apparently do an AMA, but I have no way of knowing if he actually talked in it. So I don't know if it's him or not, because I don't know jack shit about crypto. All I know is that a lot of young Minecraft players probably lost a lot of money. Realistically, this isn't the only reason Minecraft banned crypto, but I think it's fair to say it's a part of it. Also, thanks to Aubrey for helping me research this. Now I want to take you back to something a little more foundational in Minecraft's history. At one point in time, there was a 6-time Grammy nominee celebrity DJ who almost made part of Minecraft's original soundtrack. Deadmau5 or Joel may not be the most streamed artist, but he's certainly one of the most influential. He's less famous for his music though, and more for being an asshole.
Joel played a remix of Martin Garrix's Animals during his set, but with a unique twist. He had reworked the iconic drop of the track into playing the melody for Old MacDonald.
That's unrelated, I just thought it was funny. But the question remains, how does any of this relate to Minecraft? Let me take you back to 2010.
Gee, Minecraft sure is addicting. For about 2 minutes.
Well, it's clear Goat Lord didn't like the game at first. After giving it more of a chance, he started to get the hype. He even briefly became a Minecraft YouTuber. But obviously Joel wasn't the average Minecraft YouTuber. He was a famous DJ. His random Minecraft videos got picked up by the Canadian news. And it wasn't long until Notch, the game's creator, noticed.
Hi, are you Deadmau5? I'm a big fan, hi!
Yo.
At first, Joel seemed uninterested in anything other than playing Minecraft for fun. At least until one late night in October when a post was made to the Minecraft forums making a huge claim.
I went to 2 Deadmau5 concerts this weekend. I met him last night and we talked about Minecraft. He said he offered to do some music for Minecraft.
If this was true, I mean, it's 2010, this could push Minecraft into the mainstream. It seems like Notch must have seen the post because shortly after he tweeted about it.
Hidden track trailer music? Nobody knows yet.
But that was about to change when Joel himself posted a track to SoundCloud. I'll leave that playing in the background for a little while. But this confirmed everything, a demo made specifically for Minecraft. And while it was just an edit of his previous song, the game's small community had high hopes. Once the existing composer, C418, acknowledged the track, it wasn't long before the announcement was made. Together, the two of them would create music that would one day be part of the game. Shortly after, they released a teaser. It's not done, but it's supposedly a nighttime theme. I think it fits in pretty well with the rest of the soundtrack. I mean, it's the polar opposite of the kind of music I make, so I don't have any actual critiques on it. But that aside, when the album finally released, No mention of Joel was anywhere to be found. The song Living Mice is probably a nod to him, but there's never been any reason to think he produced it. Looking back, I mean, I know this isn't where things ended, but players were understandably disappointed and confused. C418's lips were staying completely sealed. But that December, those same players started to get their hopes up once again. Notch had just given Joel a one-of-a-kind cosmetic, mouse ears. Or I guess he gave mouse ears to Joel's username. If he ever changes it, they go away. But what made people really excited was a much less talked about feature for Joel. A Minecraft version specifically made to host a virtual concert.
It also had a very early version of spectator mode.
Remember, this is 5 years or 27 full releases before spectator mode was added properly. This also might be the first mainstream in-game concert ever. It's before Fortnite, it's before Roblox. This is also 2 years before Notch's divorce. You think Joel might have been Notch's gay awakening? For whatever reason for his pampering Joel with gifts, since Notch implied there would be some sort of virtual concert, players waited and waited for an entire year. And still, no sign of any live performance. At least in Minecraft. You see, there'd been rumors quietly spreading that deadmau5 might appear at the official Minecon event that year. As attendees arrived, they were on the lookout for any sign of his presence. And before we get to what happened, I would really like to make YouTube my career, so I'd appreciate if you subscribed. Fast forward to the official release of Minecraft 1.0. Attendees claim they've seen Joel around the convention. And as if to confirm the crowd's thoughts, when the lever was pulled, Joel's music filled the room. This song's called Professional Griefers, by the way. You know, like Minecraft? At this point, it was too much to ignore. Maybe this wasn't the end of Joel's involvement with the soundtrack. Cautiously, players began to let their expectations rise again. And just as they were worried they would be getting another round of disappointment at the adult-only Nether Party, it was my goat, Joel, playing Minecraft music at the adult-only party. You can tell because there's strippers. Watching the recordings makes me wish I could have been there. Not because of the strippers. Now, obviously this isn't the same as if he made part of the soundtrack, but seems like with all the excitement, players missed something. Hidden within a seemingly unrelated C418 album, quietly posted on Bandcamp, is a near-complete version of his collab with Joel. We may never know why it didn't end up in the game. Could be licensing issues, could be that they cheated with each other's wives, you know, it's really entirely up in the air. Weird to think that I'm talking about something that people actually were there for a decade ago. They could be watching this. By the way, a lot of the information came from this dude, so check him out. Now I want to move on to something current, an ongoing lawsuit that could force Minecraft to add a screen time limit. In 2023, Sarah, a mom in Arkansas, filed a lawsuit against the video game industry. The lawsuit claims that games like Minecraft are specifically designed to cause addiction experienced by her son and other users. And this is huge, because if game companies realize they can be sued for this, we can expect to see screen time limits everywhere. But plenty of us play Minecraft in a healthy way, so what led Sarah to think this? So her son, Tyler, started playing video games at the age of 12. By age 16, he dropped out of high school over it. He's now 21, he's experienced severe emotional distress, loss of friends, inability to limit game playing time, depression, and withdrawal symptoms such as rage. According to his pissed off mom. But still, wow, it's also gotta be mortifying for Tyler to have this in a public lawsuit. Okay, I can see why she sued, but I'm still not convinced that Minecraft is at fault here. I mean, in Tyler's mind, there's two choices. He can stay home and play video games, all expenses paid, and sometimes have to deal with lectures from his mom. Or he can make big, sweeping changes in his life, spend a lot less time gaming, and move out to live alone. The first option is the path of least resistance here. I don't mean to say she's a bad parent, because I don't even know this person. But video games aren't the only explanation for it. It could be trauma, depression, or as ABC News said, depression or autism. I'm autistic, I can laugh. I don't know her kid, but he doesn't seem much happier than she is. He's 21, so she's probably tried a lot, but I can imagine there's something deeper that's unaddressed causing him to fill a void with video games. But because of this, I'd be surprised if the lawsuit actually gets anywhere. She even cited medical fees as the reason she's suing, so it's possible she just needs money and doesn't believe what she's saying. But separating this from Tyler for a second, I think it actually serves a valuable lesson. Feeling like there's no reason to do the things you should be doing is super common. I felt that way. But you can't put it off forever. People are a lot more understanding of a 16-year-old without social skills than like a 30-year-old. Okay, enough overly simplistic Minecraft advice. So, 2025 update. That lawsuit went to arbitration, so it's likely nothing will come of it. The same can't be said for the first original Minecraft movie that did unfortunately come out in 2012. Minecraft: The Story of Mojang began production in 2011, when a team called Two Player Productions reached out to Minecraft's creator Notch with an ambitious idea. They wanted to create a documentary capturing the entire story of Minecraft's creation. They'd already made a couple video game documentaries before, so this was the logical next step. Luckily, Notch accepted, and the 2PP team flew out to Mojang headquarters in Sweden to begin filming. To fund the movie, they launched a Kickstarter campaign, setting an ambitious goal of $150,000. But somehow, within 24 hours, it had raised $27,000 and eventually totaled over $210,000. Actually, it was one of the highest grossing campaigns in the history of Kickstarter at the time. So clearly, there was a lot of demand for a film like this, and people had very high expectations. Filming took over a year, in which the team was given insane, unparalleled access to the entire Minecraft team. They filmed major events like the first Minecon, they did a bunch of interviews with people in the gaming industry, and they even interviewed a bunch of fan projects. Once filming wrapped up, they managed to land C418, Minecraft's original composer, to write 31 original songs for its soundtrack. And finally, almost a year later, the film exclusively premiered for the first time on Xbox Live. And then to make it worse, the next day when they properly released it, they also put it on the Pirate Bay to combat piracy. Okay, so you can already tell this film is going to be pretty niche. 3 years later, they did briefly debut on TV with some YouTubers hosting an after show, but that didn't last very long, at least as far as I can tell. And overall, it kind of went down in Minecraft history as a gem that some OG fans might remember, but that's about it. Just one small problem. The film's kind of shit. Okay.
Generating level. And here we are.
It's just a let's play. Yeah, the first 2 minutes of this film are just someone's random gameplay of their first night. And the next, 6 are also completely irrelevant. But then, the story starts.
The first 7 years of my life, I lived out in the countryside in a place called Edsbyn.
But even though Notch grew up in this tiny little town, he always knew he wanted to be a game developer. So one day at school, he told his career counselor in hopes to maybe get some advice, and she said,
well, that's probably not gonna happen.
But he persisted. Fine story so far. Fast forward around a decade and he gets a job at King, the company behind Candy Crush. However, in his free time, he'd constantly be working on games of his own.
While we were working at King, we were allowed to make games in our spare time, but we couldn't do it as a business.
So Notch took a big risk. He quit his job to make his own games. Shortly after this is when he posted the first version of Minecraft to an indie game forum. And it caught on fast. Entirely organically, Minecraft was becoming wildly popular.
But in the beginning, it was so basic. You can place blocks on boxes.
Yeah, no, low-key, Minecraft was so glazed in the early stages. You walked around and placed blocks.
He did nothing. He literally did nothing.
I really liked the game from the start. This is like a digital.
I really liked the game.
That was your favorite part about it, jumping around.
But Notch wasn't stupid. He was very aware of this. He spent the next 2 years or so constantly updating Minecraft again and again, mostly on his own. But he never lost sight of the community that drove Minecraft's success, and he tried to involve them when he could. By this point though, Minecraft was so huge it was hard to justify not hiring a proper team.
Jokingly said, well, they say the first million is the most difficult. Like, I didn't expect to make another million.
No. Millionaire problems.
Since money wasn't an issue, he started to turn Mojang into a proper company. But even with this growing team of developers and massive community, Minecraft was still technically only in beta. So the team began working on an official full release of Minecraft, along with a plan to hype it up. They settled on an in-person convention called Minecon, where they'd launch the update live on stage. And this would arguably be the most iconic moment in Minecraft history. They'd hosted a little meetup in a field before, but this would be their first big in-person convention. And they had no idea what they were doing, so planning would take a while. But this is where it kind of becomes clear how poorly filmed this documentary is. Love that angle.
Gotta get closer, dude.
I think I gotta zoom in more.
Actually, just give me a big smile, Notch. Oh yeah, right there.
I don't know who is doing these shots, but they are just awful.
Eventually though, it's getting pretty close to when Minecon is supposed to happen. And they have this really cool build-up, like how many people are gonna show up? What's gonna happen?
We have no idea how many are gonna show up, and we signed the papers already with the hotel.
Licks his lips.
Okay, but there's some stakes to this part, this is cool.
Oh!
And then they completely break the tension with 40 minutes of community fan creations. It's not that these aren't cool, they're just really poorly placed and gone way too long. Okay, so is something happening? I'm hoping they'll go to Minecon. So that was
they had set up stakes for everything.
Oh, they took a 40-minute break, but they're back to Minecon. This is where they'd release the long-awaited full version. It's Captain Sparkles!
It's gotta be so cool to see your vision like come to fruition like this.
Yeah.
Notch, please.
Notch, flip the lever.
Bro.
You know, the second you flip that lever, the game goes live. This is so uncomfortably long.
But now, for the moment that you have all been waiting for.
Do it!
Pull the lever!
Pull it! Pull it! And this scene's actually really nice. It's very wholesome. They show a bunch of sweet things happening. Like Notch's poorly aged marriage.
But he would soon regret that decision.
Because he would lose half of his net worth. But naturally, this was all so much for all of them to process, especially Notch. A lot changed in just the past year. So after some deliberation, Notch decided to move away from his role as lead developer and pass it on to Jeb, who still leads Minecraft to this day. He didn't want the pressure. Instead of developing Minecraft, Notch would work on his new game, 0x10, which, was indefinitely postponed and never came out. This kind of marks the end of the peak of Notch's life. More on that later. So why do I say the film isn't very good? Well, it was very heartwarming, but most of the time it just felt like a collection of unrelated clips. I mean, there's a reason that my video is 8 minutes and the documentary is 1:40. I cut a lot out. The actual movie is a little less coherent than I made it look in this video because I actually rearranged some things just for the sake of my video flowing better. And I know documentaries aren't supposed to be quite as fast as YouTube videos, but it was just so slow. Like, really boring. It wasn't made for my ADHD attention span, but still, that's how I felt about it. It doesn't mean you have to feel the same. There were a lot of missed opportunities and just generally bad filmmaking. Like for a documentary that followed the actual Minecraft team in person for a year, I feel like I should have learned a bit more. The one thing the movie has going for it is that it has a really damn good soundtrack. Like this song. It's a collaboration between C418 and Lara Shikihara, the composer of Plants vs. Zombies, which is a crossover I never fucking thought would happen. Even though I'm saying all these criticisms though, this is not a critique of the people who made it. I think they came from a wonderful place of wanting to do something great for a community of people. And they accomplished that goal. I mean, they have a pretty high audience score, even though it's just really hardcore Minecraft fans. I just don't think it holds up for a general audience. After this movie, Minecraft's growth slowed down a lot. Notch sold it to Microsoft, got divorced, and then canceled on Twitter for saying crazy racist shit. You know, how many slurs do you think he can type with his eyes closed? So I think it's honestly fair to call this the peak of his life, and it must be pretty fucking sad watching it back now for him. Everything I've covered so far has been pretty specific to the base vanilla game, but there's a lot missing from that. I'd argue mods and servers account for the majority of the interesting stuff that happens. And without these three developers, nearly every Minecraft server wouldn't exist. This is MD5, or Michael, the creator of Spigot, but some of Michael's earliest work was on Bukkit. Bukkit was the first server software that allowed you to easily load plugins, which are like mods for servers. Given that the alternative was shitty minigames made with redstone, this was an absolute game changer at the time. Alright, you following? Great, I'm gonna completely flip this on its head. Behind everyone's back, Bukkit's management sold the project to Mojang. When the news dropped, Bukkit's developers who weren't included in this deal were furious and they struck down the project, forcing it to be abandoned. This all happened right around the release of version 1.8, and many server owners were worried they wouldn't be able to update, like at all. But one man saw the situation a lot differently. To him, it was just a problem that needed fixing. Someone could swoop in, save the day, and make Bukkit great again. This man was Michael MD5. He created Spigot as a successor to Bukkit, and he made absolutely certain the existing plugins would still work. This effectively meant Bukkit's development picked up right where it left off, all thanks to this one guy. Once Spigot was a bit more established, he also created Bungee Cord, which allows players to seamlessly travel between servers without having to reconnect to a different IP. Spigot remained the main software used by almost every server for years, until it was overtaken eventually by Paper. While Spigot is important, without plugins, it's pretty much useless. Plugins, like WorldEdit. Come on, you gotta admit, that transition was smooth as hell. It was created by SK89Q, or Albert, so get ready for his villain origin story. Back in Minecraft Alpha, when survival mode was still brand new, Albert and a couple of friends had a server together. Everyone built their bases in different styles, scattered across the map. And one day, Albert had the idea that it'd be cool if they connect their bases with roads. So, the group started manually gathering the materials for it. And this process was boring as shit! So, to speed it up, Albert turned to the dark side and became a modder. Back then, the modding community was tiny. There was no Forge or Bucket. If you wanted to make a mod, you had to open up the game files and manually replace them, all while trying to figure out whether the function names meant placing a block or quitting the game. But Albert learned how to make a simple mod that set 2 positions and filled in the area with blocks. Sounds pretty fucking evil to me. Anyway, shortly after this, he released the initial version of WorldEdit with just 300 lines of code. Around the same time, a different developer created a standalone application called MCEdit that did pretty much the same thing. And the way I remember, MCEdit caught on much earlier. Once Albert found out about it, he didn't see it as competing though, and he enjoyed using both of them for different things. The community, however, saw it differently, constantly comparing the two on the forums. Albert continued adding features to WorldEdit. Crazy shit like brushes, mathematical expressions, and height maps. Imagine being so boring that you build with math. Since Albert primarily made WorldEdit for servers, it became an indispensable tool for every build team. But as WorldEdit gained real traction, MCEdit's development stagnated. Their last update was in 2015, and by this point, WorldEdit had largely replaced it. I know personally I stopped using MCEdit once I found out about WorldEdit. Some people genuinely did use both, but fundamentally I think they were competing. And WorldEdit won. After 2015, Albert's contributions to WorldEdit slowed down. However, it was popular enough that other developers still maintained it for free just because they loved it, thus making WorldEdit one of the oldest plugins that's still in use today. Since all this, newer tools like Axiom and World Painter have emerged, and even Mojang made a similar thing for Bedrock Edition. Albert's actually seen some screenshots of these, and he likes the concepts a lot. But for me, and most Java server owners, WorldEdit's still the go-to. Overall, Albert's happy people got that little extra joy out of building with WorldEdit, the same joy it gave to him. WorldEdit's definitely earned its spot as the most popular plugin, but Inventive Talent, or Haley, has been #1 on the Spigot leaderboards for almost a decade. When she first discovered Minecraft in 2012, she thought it was fine, but she was 14 with 3 years of coding experience, so she was much more interested in how she could mod it. So there's mods and there's plugins, but plugins are a lot more limited. For example, they can't add any new items. Anytime you see that on a server, it's just a bunch of workarounds. So the obvious choice for Haley would be mods, right? Well, she tried to learn modding, but she just ended up frustrated. This was before any fancy tools like Fabric or really even any good tutorials, so she gravitated more to plugins. She spent hours after school each day learning to code them, and eventually, she decided to publish her work to the Spigot website. Over the next 2 years, she slowly became the most prolific developer on the entire site out of her pure passion for coding. Even MD5 left a review on one of her plugins, which, according to Haley, is the only time she's aware of him doing this before or since. But of course, no matter how talented you are, people will still take issue with it because you're a woman. It's a pretty heavily male-dominated space, so she's gotten a lot of subtly sexist comments. Usually it's just being surprised that a girl can code or like misgendering her, but there have been a few times where it's just overtly sexist to her face.
So, what do you do?
Oh, I'm a developer.
But you're a woman?
Would you suck Andrew Tate's given the opportunity?
Wait, no, women are funny, women are funny.
Generally though, she lets her work speak for itself, which probably disarmed a lot of the sexist comments. Some of her code arguably pushed the boundaries of what you could do without mods. But there was one problem. There weren't very many people actually using it. She had 500,000 downloads total across her plugins, and WorldEdit has 22 million. On one project. She was also getting pretty tired of dealing with the unique expectation plugin developers have of personally providing tech support to everyone. People also expect constant updates, which is rough if it's only a hobby. I mean, these people are lucky her plugins are public at all, and all of this just kind of sucked the fun out of it. So Haley came up with a different idea. Still focusing on Minecraft, she taught herself web development, spending the next couple of years creating mostly Minecraft-focused tools. Once she'd gotten good at it, some of them ended up getting quite popular. Take Mineskin, for example, which helps servers generate Minecraft skins from images. Here's some popular plugins that use it, and if that looks like gobbledygook to you, just know that's most servers. There's also MineRender, which renders Minecraft objects on websites. Even if these were still just hobby projects, people really liked them. But Haley was reaching the age where you have to graduate from high school and f*** off to college, meaning a lot less time to code and a lot more time watching an elderly professor teach her basic shit. Luckily though, Minecraft web development was actually a pretty valuable skill, and one day she received a commission that would change everything. It was from one of the largest Minecraft servers in history, The Hive. She was tasked to create a custom version of MineRender, which, while kind of boring, made Haley realize there was money in this. Before, she'd basically only had Spigot's measly reward program and a couple donations. But she did the commission and continued taking work here and there, although nothing particularly substantial. But this would all change when she got hooked on Hypixel Skyblock. Bet you didn't expect that! She got very into it, grinding hours a day, and eventually made it to the magma boss. This fucker spawns once every 2 hours on the dot and usually gets killed within 2 minutes, so very annoying to actually run into it. But this gave Haley an idea. She threw together a website that tracked its spawn patterns so she could get the drops that she wanted. Just for fun though, she posted about her timer on the Hypixel forums, and it caught the fuck on. Hundreds of people started to stalk it to see when the next boss would spawn. It's just a 2-hour timer, I don't know why they needed it, but apparently there were so many that Hypixel actually had noticeable spikes in the player count when it reached 0. Seeing this, one of the staff members sent her a message. The staff member thanked her for her timer, and they talked for a while. And Haley realized that this might be her only chance to potentially get a job working at Hypixel, the largest Minecraft server in existence. Eventually, she managed to schedule a date for an interview. But this was her first real job interview she'd ever been in, so she was extremely nervous. Afterwards, she really wasn't sure if she'd get hired or not. But she fucking did! Since getting hired at Hypixel, Haley's worked on a few things you might recognize, but mostly back-end stuff. She gets to work on awesome projects with people she's looked up to for years without the stress of angry customers like on Spigot. And she even got to drop out of college from it. This is a very inspiring story, but there's another reason I wanted to talk about this. In the history of my channel, I think I've talked about 4 women. Haley, obviously, the head of Minecraft, my girlfriend, and someone who got fucking groomed. Girls deserve to see role models too. If you're a girl and you need to hear this from SkyBoi from Minecraft for some reason, Minecraft and video games in general are a totally valid thing to be interested in. Same with coding. Anyway, now that I've fixed sexism, thank you to Albert, Michael, and Haley for answering my dumbass questions and their huge contributions to the Minecraft server space. That's enough about servers though. What about the history of modding? As usual, our story begins in 2009 when Notch outright banned Minecraft mods, more specifically distributing modified versions of the game. See, back then, mods could only be made by modifying the game's code directly. That meant if you wanted to share your mod, you'd be committing software piracy, which is why it makes sense that the first popular Minecraft mod was a hacked client. Introducing World of Minecraft, allowing you to fly, walk through walls, and move 5 times faster. Modding was still illegal, so the only people who installed mods were cheaters who just didn't care. There were some attempts to distribute mods as code to copy-paste yourself, but that caused other problems. It was difficult, some mods would modify the same line of code, and it led people to accidentally corrupt their game. The modding space was kind of a mess at this point, but everything was about to change when a player named Risugami released something called ModLoader. ModLoader was pretty revolutionary. It worked a bit like Minecraft Forge, but notably worse. Suddenly, ordinary players could not only play mods, but multiple of them at once. You may remember me mentioning it in a previous video since it was used by the creator of the Aether. But ModLoader wasn't the only innovation around this time. Back then, mod developers still had to decipher code that looked like this. No, that would be awful, wouldn't it? No, it looked like this. It's called obfuscation, and it's a method developers use to protect their work. To get around this problem, a tool would be released that would change modding forever. A tool that's still in use today. Mod Coder Pack. Dude, these names are so fucking boring. You may not have heard of it, but for a long time, every mod used Mod Coder Pack. It automated the process of deciphering or de-obfuscating Minecraft's code. As a result, modding was more accessible than ever. In the background during all of this, Notch was working on his biggest update yet, the Halloween update of 2010. And if you know Minecraft history, you know this is when he added the Nether. As a little known side effect, however, this update broke every mod. At the time, this was a massive issue. Modding was definitely impacted. Today, however, it's even worse. Nearly every update now breaks mods that worked just one version before. Modders are under more stress now than ever. But okay, back to 2011. Modding did eventually recover. With the release of mods like WorldEdit, Too Many Items, later replaced by Not Enough Items, Just Enough Items, roughly, you get my point. But amidst these classics, one mod was different. Arguably the most popular mod of all time and the first ever to monetize. This mod was Optifine. Optifine is a performance-enhancing mod which implemented cosmetics years before anyone else. Paying $10 unlocked a special cape, and I estimate they've sold at least 20,000. If you've ever used Optifine, you've definitely seen them around. Besides that, they also have annoying ads every time you go to download it. They're super intrusive, so I imagine they pay a lot. There is a reason, however, that no one else managed to monetize before Optifine. The Mojang EULA. At this point, the EULA explicitly banned charging money for your mods, like straight up. Optifine had to use weird workarounds to even be allowed to exist. Since it was such a process to make even a few bucks, most mod authors didn't bother. And let me take a second to say, mod authors should be able to make money. Server plugin authors have been allowed to for years.
Wait, you're getting paid?
Yeah?
Isn't this like ruining the plugin ecosystem?
Not at all.
Respectfully, all you do is code. I make art, I model, I do all kinds of stuff. How are you the one getting paid?
Beats me. I can write that joke because I code plugins. Mod developers put real time into their code, and it's pretty messed up that they aren't allowed to profit from it. Despite the restrictions, people's love for the game kept the modding scene alive. Tons of mods released over the next several years. The main reason mods like these could succeed, though, was the centralized database of pretty much every mod ever made. The site known as CurseForge. CurseForge lets people find and download mods in just a few clicks. And also, this is big, lets developers collect money from ads. All things considered, it was a huge win. But how much money exactly? Uh-oh. CurseForge revenue is atrocious. As far as I can tell, the rate seems to be about $20 per 100,000 downloads. That means each download is worth 2/10,000ths of a cent. The only situation in which this would be worthwhile is if you're making Minecraft mods from a third world country where that money goes further. Name one mod author from Uzbekistan. And even then, like, there are so many better ways to make money. I should clarify that I have nothing against people from Uzbekistan, but my point is, if a mod author wants to create mods full time, they quite literally can't. Except for one kind of modder. YouTubers.
Hey, I'm Rat.
Yeah, so I brought Dr. Rat to talk about different monetization methods of mods, and also to illustrate how none of them work.
None of them work? Nah, come on now, it's not that bad, is it? Is it? You may know me as Dr. Rat or from the very silly Minecraft mods I've made for videos over the years. But truth is, I've only managed to turn this into a living through YouTube only fairly recently compared to the rest of my modding shenanigans. See, just like every passion job, before I managed to turn this into a living, modding used to be a hobby, and while nowadays I make a fair pay through YouTube ads and sponsors in my videos, most Minecraft modders don't have my notoriety or just aren't interested in the whole video business, and as a result, have very limited sources of revenue. Since the dawn of Minecraft modding, the first and most common source of revenue for modders is probably the same as everyone trying to get a few dollars on the internet. Ads. Back in the day, the most common method for those were to host your mod downloads on your own website and run ads on it, so that every time you'd get a visitor interested in your work, they'd see these ads and you'd get your sweet corporate pocket change in exchange. But if you didn't wish to hassle with making and hosting a website, another very common practice would be URL shorteners. When clicked, these would force you to stay on the page, displaying a cascade of ads before redirecting you to the download. In exchange, whoever made the shortened URL, in this case the modder, would get a small amount of revenue every time that link was clicked and viewed. I still remember those old, terrible, then probably unsafe ad flight links to that sweet Mediafire mod jar file download like if it was yesterday. But thankfully, these have seen less and less use over the years. Nowadays, the most common method is now through mod hosting websites. With the coming of CurseForge and very recently Modrinth, ad revenue sharing programs have gotten very popular, and understandably so. On those platforms, anyone can now post their mods and get an ad revenue share depending on the amount of downloads. You can think of it as similar to YouTube, with the difference that it barely pays. At the peak of my modding popularity, with around 20 million downloads on my mods, I'd make around $400 every 2 months. And given Modrinth is even less popular than CurseForge at the time of this video, revenue there is barely even worth mentioning. But hey, at least you can receive your Modrinth earnings as Bass Pro Shops coupons. The second most common way for others to monetize their mods, especially today, is through monetary support-based platforms like Patreon or Ko-Fi. And given these platforms heavily encourage offering rewards in exchange of support, naturally, mods are no different and have a few ways to go about it. A few of these being commonly in-game rewards, often cosmetics, early mod releases, or private mods altogether. This monetization method tends to be a bit more reliable than ads, and when I started YouTube, was a pillar for being able to turn this into a living while allowing me to offer the half-baked botched buggy mods I'd make for videos and wouldn't release otherwise in exchange. But still, this method requires at least some amount of popularity, which not every modder has. As a result, the third, final, and often last attempt for modders to pay the bills with their skills are commissions, meaning making mods for people, or very often YouTubers, in exchange for money. And while it sounds great on paper, this is probably the worst source of all three. I can't recall the amount of times I've heard friends tell me about how a client screwed them over by either being extremely disrespectful, underpaying, or completely ghosting them altogether, never offering compensation for hours of work. It's genuinely miserable. And I don't understand why, but so many people have this opinion that modders should never be able to make money, let alone turn their passion into a job, but don't seem to have an issue with game developers being able to, when at the end of the day, they're both about programming games. And ironically, very often, these people are also the same ones that will in turn support the real money-making machines of this ecosystem, clients.
A Minecraft client is a custom launcher with a built-in set of mods. You know this. The reason I mention clients is because they, along with platforms like CurseForge, are the ones making money from modding. Most modders can't even make it work as a side hustle. Mojang recently told a mod author to release his paywalled work for free or they'd take action. On top of that, Mojang's last EULA update says you're not allowed to make money from your mods at all. It's never been this bad. Modding is a huge part of what's kept Minecraft around for this long. If everyone just played vanilla, I mean, most people would have quit after a year. The second most popular game of all time, GTA 5 also allows modding, and guess what? It's lasted as long as Minecraft. Clearly there's a common thread here. So let me ask this. Mojang, why can't mod developers make money from their work? Your game developers are paid just fine, or mod developers less valid? Well, since that video, I believe I've found the truth. I've talked to multiple modders, YouTubers, and even creator of the Skibidi Toilet official skin pack, log.zip, and I can tell you firsthand, this goes so much deeper than you think. Have you ever noticed how pretty much everything online relies on the same business model? Taking a cut from user-generated content. For example, Google! Google makes 80% of its revenue from ads, and together with Facebook, they control 70% of the US ad market. Google serves the ads, buys the ad space, sells the ad space to advertisers, provides the analytics, and runs the search engine that people use to find sites in the first place. And they provide all of that for free. Which seems great until you realize no one else can compete. Advertisers have nowhere else to go. This lets Google buy ad space cheaply, and when they sell it back, mark it up by a huge undisclosed amount. Google then uses its monopoly profits to pay other companies to make their search engine the default. You can think of it like the evil champion from Parkour Civilization using barrier blocks, except the champion is Google and the barrier blocks are capitalism and money. Using these barrier blocks, Google's captured 91% of search and 95% on mobile, all from taking a cut of content they didn't make. By the way, this is directly from a book called Choke Point Capitalism, which you should absolutely read, but the book calls this business model the anti-competitive flywheel, and it's everywhere. The Apple App Store, Kindle Books, every social media platform. This is the business model of big tech. And guess what else is owned by big tech? That's right, Minecraft! When Microsoft bought Minecraft, they were thrilled to find a rich community of user-generated content people were willing to make for free. Not because it's really cool and shows how creative people are, no, because it can make them a ton of money. So they devised a scheme, the Bedrock Marketplace. And these days, Microsoft is pretty chill for a big tech company. They're already past their antitrust government crackdown era. But in this case, they followed the anti-competitive flywheel to a science. To make a ton of money. Step 1. Lock in users. When Microsoft made the Bedrock Marketplace, they made sure it was by far the easiest way to play adventure maps or whatever else. I mean, imagine some little kid trying to install something separately on his iPad. Bro wouldn't know how to do shit. More recently, Microsoft even intentionally broke the only way to mod Bedrock outside of the marketplace, fully locking in their users. Step 2. Lock in suppliers. Microsoft doesn't allow you to charge for Java Edition content, as seen by them taking down the paid version of the physics mod. And the actual EULA, a document with Mojang's official rules for what you can and can't do with Minecraft, goes as far to say you can't make money from mods at all. On top of that, I was told by a prominent modder, and I can't say who, so you'll have to trust me on this, that Microsoft specifically told him that they're allowed to monetize their mods just like how servers are monetized, and that it will be clarified in the next version of the EULA. It's not necessarily Microsoft's intention, but this EULA being different deters people from even attempting to make money on Java. All while Bedrock dangles the possibility of being paid like a carrot on a stick. Step 3. Eliminate competition. Oh wait, they already did that. Step 4. Force suppliers to accept unfairly low prices. Microsoft takes a 62.5% cut. For comparison, Modrant, the community-led Java Edition platform that's forced to monetize purely through ad revenue, still only takes 25%. I feel like it should be pretty clear by this point that whether or not it's legal, because like Google is legal too, the Bedrock Marketplace is effectively a monopoly. And what Microsoft wants more than anything is to make their monopoly stronger. So to do this, Microsoft has been trying to entice Java creators to move to Bedrock. For example, Noxcrew is one of the most famous Minecraft content studios. Back in 2016, they poured 7 entire months of work into their most ambitious map yet, Terra Swoop Force, full of features never seen in Minecraft at the time. Like, it literally had full voice acting. But this almost made them go bankrupt. The entire map made them about $50, leaving the company to rely on fucking Patreon. Many of the employees were either in college or about to be, and they didn't have time to sink into an unsustainable Minecraft passion project. Then, lucky for them, Microsoft offered to spot as a Bedrock Marketplace partner. This saved their company, but whatever amount Noxcrew's earned, Microsoft's raked in more than double. So this means Microsoft directly reaches out to top map makers to convert them to Bedrock, which seems to have also generally led to a decline in adventure maps. Nowadays, there's about 200 partnered creators, and if these partnered companies, say, claim Skyblock or The Aether as their own original idea, there's not much the actual original creators can do. These partnered creators and their employees are the only people allowed to make money from their work, and even then, Microsoft takes most of it. So wow, that sounds really f***ed up. But hang on. Apple and Google's app stores both take 30% of sales, and Microsoft handles hosting, distribution, purchases, moderation, and provides people a game engine, and it's still lower than Roblox's 75% cut. There's also something to be said for the fact that plenty of creators have been able to go full-time. That's invariably a good thing. If the top talent gets paid, they'll keep making more content, which boosts the longevity of Minecraft as a whole. So, is Microsoft's strategy really as bad as it seems? If you're like me, you're probably wondering how Microsoft is even able to stop people from making money. It's not like mods contain any of Minecraft's actual code. Well, apparently it relies on something called derivative works, although there are some exceptions. If a mod overhauls the game completely, it's possible they'd have some legal standing, but most mods don't do that, and the ones that do are unlikely to go to court with big tech. So Microsoft can essentially do whatever they want. And who's to say they shouldn't? Under current US law, a company's primary duty is to its shareholders, which basically means legally they have to maximize profits. And this all goes back to a landmark case in 1916. I promise this is important. The price of Ford's flagship car was regularly being decreased, while the wages for his employees were going up. The founder, Henry Ford, wanted to pay his shareholders less and instead put that money towards new factories to increase production and create jobs. But the shareholders were not happy about this, and two of them, John and Horace Dodge, filed a lawsuit in the yee state of Michigan. Because this is America, they actually won, and this set a precedent that remains to this day. And by the way, Ford was doing this to squeeze out the other shareholders because he correctly suspected the Dodge brothers were going to start a rival car company. But the fact of the matter is, companies are now legally required to put profits above ethics, up until their methods become straight up illegal, and sometimes past that point. If it's more efficient for shipping but it pollutes the environment, guess what? Do it anyway! Okay, you can probably tell I think this is bullshit. The richest people in the world get their money through investing or higher management at large companies. For anyone lower down at a company, the incentive structure is set up in a way where it makes the most sense for their boss to cut their pay to increase the money given to investors, even though the investors don't actually do the work that keeps the company in business.
Robin Hood, what are you doing? As I always say, steal from the poor and give to the rich. Where are you, Jeff Bezos? Daddy's home!
So while this has led American companies to dominate the global economy and made every other country afraid to f with us, for most Americans, it's just made it hard to put food on the table. Let's circle this back to Microsoft. Legally, they're doing what they're supposed to by maximizing their profits, but that doesn't make it right. Minecraft is a paid game, so they've already made what they deem their product to be worth. Why, other than just that's how the law is, should they also take a cut of the creations people make using Minecraft as a base, which is the exact thing the Bedrock marketplace is designed to do. Point is, while some people are able to create for Minecraft full-time, especially on Bedrock, it's not very many, and it's a lot less than there should be. But maybe it doesn't have to be like this. According to Yale professor Jonathan Macy,
as long as corporate directors and CEOs claim to be maximizing profits for shareholders, they will be taken at their word, because it is impossible to refute these corporate officials' self-serving assertions about their motives.
Microsoft also had a terribly performing CEO for 14 years and shareholders kept him around. So in theory, an emphasis on in theory, because I'm not totally confident in this, Microsoft could implement a more fair for creator system in addition to what they're already doing, and shareholders couldn't prove there was even anything illegal. What system, then, should it be? Okay, so the obvious answer is just allow anyone to charge money and force the marketplace to compete. This is certainly what I thought in my last video about this, but let's explore that. After that video, someone made a Reddit thread breaking apart everything I said. So I brought them on for a debate.
I'm Turkler. I've made mods for many games.
Now, your first question. Can the Minecraft community be trusted to regulate themselves?
So far, Spigot plugins have done a pretty good job, and I also think something like Modrinth would be able to rise to the challenge and do a pretty good job of it as well.
Turkle, would you like to have a short response to that?
In games like Minecraft and Roblox, we see that once you have a financial incentive, big corporations and general bad faith actors come in to try and make a quick buck.
This is honestly a good point. It's a valid downside to doing it.
If modders can go in knowing that they can bring a profit in, does that incentivize them to make better products or money grabs? SkyBoi, you'll go first.
I think different people will respond to it in different ways. Some people will be incentivized to make better work. Some people will be incentivized to make something just good enough that they can make money. But I think the bigger impact that this will have is like longevity overall. If you can make money from something, there is an incentive to keep doing it.
Turk, now your answer to the question.
There are many modders who push a small bug fix and that's it. A lot of people wouldn't want to contribute to big monetized projects. And why start your own little passion project when your work could literally be money? The average modder would be far less likely to either start up their own projects or contribute to existing projects.
SkyBoi, would you like to respond to that? Or
counterpoint to that is I think the free mod where people are contributing to it could easily coexist with a mod someone makes for money. Developers also have like oftentimes full-time jobs that they do. If they're not doing that and they're choosing to mod as a hobby anyway, I don't see why they would choose to mod less as a hobby just because they can make money from something a little closer to their hobby. hobby. Circular didn't challenge this, but he should have. That was a dumb point. I think there would be a bit of a decline in free mods because of this. There's also some other problems. What if someone made a fork of Sodium, for example, changing the name, claiming it performs better, and then sold it? That just sucks for everyone. Also, if there's money to be made without regulation, it's only a matter of time before there's a New York Times article about paid Minecraft sex mods. So clearly leaving it unregulated has a lot of problems.
Now, Turk, your last question. Oh, well, actually first, hear from our sponsor, Maker Media Plus, subscribe.
Okay.
Would you be against a official Java marketplace?
I would be highly against a marketplace in Java because we see in Bedrock they're full of low quality, low effort content, burying like actual good passion projects.
I agree, but I also think a Java marketplace is the most likely thing Microsoft might actually try, since it lets them profit there too. Ideally, you know, with a bit lower of a cut. So why haven't they done it? Some of you might be thinking it's because Mojang is trying to phase out Java Edition, but that's actually just a rumor. The real plan, at least according to Jeb at a random convention 7 years ago, was this.
Java Edition will be more like a community edition.
A tighter knit fan base, lots of free content, more customization, you get the idea. A marketplace on Java would ruin that genuinely respectable vision. On top of that, Java players would fucking riot if they saw a marketplace on there. When my buddy Jet Starfish tried charging for his one mod, people got really pissed. There were some valid reasons for this, but most of what I was seeing was more like this.
WTF, this mod breaks the EULA.
Are you seriously enforcing Microsoft's EULA right now?
Well, it's illegal.
No, it's just grounds for them to delete your Minecraft account, and they'll be fine without your help.
It's still bad.
You know, Microsoft is the same company whose founder regrets befriending Jeffrey fucking Epstein after he was already convicted.
I believe the need for creators to make money outweighs you not wanting to pay for mods and also not wanting anyone else to pay for mods. I know not everyone has the money to throw around, but mods would literally remain free most of the time. It's just so much easier to gain traction that way. Like, it'd still be very possible to play entire mod packs without paying, since mod packs with paid mods would just not get downloaded. Barely any office would include them in the first place because of it. As proof paid work makes it much harder to gain traction, we can look at the server plugin landscape. Most of it's free, even though you're perfectly allowed to charge money. This is partly because most developers are hobbyists and don't want to deal with the refunds and support necessitated by charging money, but it's also just really hard to convince people to buy something. Because of this, paid plugins are nowhere near as popular, but they still earn a hell of a lot more than the minimal ad revenue and donations that free plugins get. Bringing this back to mods, even in the few cases you would need to buy a mod to play with a friend or something, there's no reason that friend can't send you a zip of their mod pack. Like, yeah, that's technically piracy, but I doubt anyone cares. Piracy is inevitable online, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to charge money. There's an entire website for stolen Spigot plugins, and thousands of people still buy them legitimately every year. And one way or another, Java modders need to be able to make money.
I have over 200 million downloads, the 5th most downloaded mod on Modrins. I finished my uni at the start of the year, and now have a full-time job to be able to afford food and a place to live. The mods are just a hobby.
But if a Java marketplace also wouldn't work, what would? Here's what I actually think. Selling mods stays banned, but there's a way to request specific approval from Microsoft. The project is then checked to not be a copyright issue, not some kind of asset flip, not low quality, not a sex mod, etc. And if that's all fine, you can sell it. This would mitigate the monopoly of Bedrock's marketplace and allow well-intentioned creators to make money, all while leaving the free modding community intact. Mojang would probably need to take a small cut of sales to fund this, but I don't think that's the end of the world. Although, this is all pretty idealistic. This is assuming Microsoft would wield the responsibility well, and also that they give enough of a shit to go against their legal responsibility of profit maxing. Still, I don't want to bring up a problem and just not give a solution. Maybe this will at least spark some better ideas, or at least a desire for change. There is one modder, though, that instead of screwing over, Mojang decided to hire. What if I told you this and this were created by the same person? In 2009, King B-Dogs, whose real name is Brandon, stumbled across Minecraft for the first time. He was immediately impressed. In his eyes, you'd have to be a genius to code something like this.
You'd have to be a genius to code something like this.
Brandon promptly forgot it looked difficult and became a mod developer. For his first mod, he picked something pretty simple, and it is the most 2010 thing I've heard in my entire life. Are you ready? Chickens drop 9,000 diamonds on death and it crashes your game each time. A couple months later, Brandon begins work on the first mod he plans to actually release. It's really interesting going back and looking at this because it's such a product of its time. Instead of using Discord, he uses IRC chat rooms, and instead of using Forge or Fabric, he uses this thing called Mod Loader. Anyway, the mod added things like obsidian tools, friendly creepers, and custom swords, and it was creatively named after himself, calling it King's Mods. Overall, it had a pretty adventure-y feel, which we'll see expanded on in the future. This mod was actually pretty revolutionary for its time. Since there were so few mods, it was one of the only ones adding anything substantial, but it was nothing compared to what comes next. Bacon blocks, adding raw and cooked blocks of, after that one. The Aether. The idea for the mod was originally inspired by a forum user named Grey Acumen, who talked about wanting a dimension opposite of Minecraft's Nether. Brandon liked this idea a lot, and shortly after, he announced the Aether mod. The announcement teases all of these features he's managed to code in literally under a week. By this point, it was clear to everyone that Brandon had a natural talent for code. Over time, he hired a few of his modder friends to help him with the project, and just 138 days after the original announcement, which is like 1.5 days videos, the team released the first ever version of the Aether. The mod added a new dimension, also called the Aether, inspired by Brandon's perception of what heaven would look like in Minecraft.
Floating islands? Okay. Giant flying attack clouds. Unique and deadly weapons.
Okay, what is this? Because it's not heaven, that's for sure.
Despite, you know, the discrepancies, for its time, it was pretty insane. I mean, it still even holds up today, if I'm being honest. There's these dungeons that spawn across the world, and each of them has super creative bosses that drop these exciting weapons when you kill them. The mod revolutionized what was considered possible in Minecraft. Brandon also knew what people wanted. The end dimension didn't exist yet, so the demand for something like the Aether was incredibly high. With all of that considered, it was just like the best mod, and that's reflected in the download count. 5 million. Except I actually lied. What? Because it's 15 million. Modern mods obviously have way more, so let me put that number in perspective. By the end of the mod's peak in 2012, Minecraft had only sold 15 million copies. And on top of that, the Curse Forge page was created much more recently. I honestly think 15 million does not do this mod justice. A similar Minecraft thing from that time was Skyblock, which still has 4 million less than the Aether. The impact of the mod on the Minecraft community was wild. There were so many YouTubers hyping it up that this tutorial on how to build an Aether portal got 30 million views. This video is so silly. Look at all the comments saying that when they were little, they thought they could do it in vanilla. It's so cute. With the Aether mod being so popular.
Hey, so me and my girls heard you made the Aether mod?
Sorry, as I was saying, with the Aether mod being so popular, Brandon created his own YouTube channel to document his other projects. And one of these projects was a mod called the Aether 2. The new version had more biomes, a stats system, and multiplayer compatibility, which is something players had been wanting for a while. The new mod was released only 2 years after the first one, but it didn't do nearly as well. In my personal experience with it, it was a bit confusing, and it feels too different from the first one. This is not an Aether portal. Who are you? So I just found myself going back to the original when I wanted to replay it a few years ago. Despite the sequel doing a little bit worse than the original, the Aether is still one of the most recognizable mods of all time. But Brandon was getting tired of just making Aethers over and over again, and he needed to think outside the box. He needed to create something new that's even more revolutionary than the Aether itself. Unless you've been on a modding team before, you've probably never heard of it, but Orbis introduced a new game mode called Designer. It's a little like WorldEdit, letting you make big changes to huge areas of blocks really quickly. The difference here is it also has procedural terrain generation. And I understand some people aren't as smart as me, so that's for biomes or giant structures or whatever. In the past, a programmer would have to spend a lot of time implementing a builder's vision to actually be able to use it. But with Orbis, builders could export it in a format that could be used right away. This helped to lower the barrier of entry for making massive content mods like the Aether, and it had a huge impact on the modding industry. Or that's what I would have said had it not been released in 2018. See, while the project was started in 2014, it took 4 years to make, and by that point there were already plenty of solutions for working with builders. It looks like they didn't bother finishing it or even maintaining it at all. It was really technically impressive, but it only has about 19,000 downloads today. By this point, Brandon had proven he was capable of making his crazy ideas actually happen, so when he applied to work at Mojang, he was obviously denied. That's right, the first time he applied, it was for a senior position he wasn't nearly qualified for.
Applied for it because that was the only position I saw at the time, and I was kind of desperate to try and break in.
Luckily, he saw a tweet about a new game developer position opening up, and he leaped at the opportunity. He'd already updated his CV recently, which is a bit like a resume, but even so, he didn't think he'd be accepted. To Brandon's disbelief, however, he did hear back, and got constant calls and interviews from the Mojang office. It must have been a pretty surreal experience for him, since he'd loved the game for nearly a decade at this point. However, it wasn't looking super promising. No job had been offered. That wasn't until finally he received word that they were interested, but they had to meet him in person. So, in a last-ditch attempt to snag the position, he flew all the way from Australia to Minecon 2019 in Nashville. His first impression would have to be perfect, but it just might work. And his prayers were answered in December of 2019 when he was finally offered a job. He moved to Sweden a month later to join the team in earnest. Since Brandon was the new guy, he was pretty eager to please.
All right, who wants to code this one?
Not it.
I'll do it.
Really?
Some of the other developers even had doubts on if the Strider was a good idea. I mean, it's pretty different from other mobs, and there was a real risk the community would hate it. Brandon took it as a challenge though and spent hours creating what he believed to be the perfect take on it. And looking back, like, he kinda succeeded. He made the Strider cute and vanilla enough to where it was a pretty well-liked addition to the game. He also developed the Soul Speed enchantment, which was controversial at first since it reduced armor durability. Many players thought it might not even be worth using, but when the update finally released, it became an enchantment players wouldn't traverse the Nether without. Through working on these more controversial features, Brandon learned how the Minecraft community worked and what they would and wouldn't accept. Because of his ability to handle controversy, he's kind of become the face of new cutting-edge Minecraft features. His Twitter is the community's main source for teasers and leaks of new updates.
Look at this leak Mojang doesn't want you to know about.
Dude, nobody believes you.
This would carry over to his YouTube channel where he'd post a new video. This time, it was a teaser for a new boss he'd been working on. The Warden. That's right, Brandon created the Warden and a big chunk of the Deep Dark in general, which went on to be one of the most highly regarded updates ever. And then fast forward to now, do the upcoming features not scream Aether mod to you? Brandon's influence is obvious. Minecraft is adding a new dungeon structure with dozens of block variants, procedural generation, and a new mini-boss, which just so happens to be air-themed. Also included in the update is an auto-crafting block, which is very clearly inspired by the modded content from Ender.io or similar mods, which Brandon was intimately aware of. I think, like, genuinely, in the time he's worked at Mojang and, like, leading up to it, he is the second most important person in Minecraft history, coming only behind Notch himself. This man created the Aether, a tool that could have revolutionized mod development, Striders, Soul Speed, and the f***ing Warden. Oh yeah, and did I mention that he's an organizer for a Minecraft event that's raised $220,000 for 5 different charities? This guy is insane! Okay, now that I'm done glazing Brandon, whether it's weird animal cruelty-free Minecraft servers or things that will impact the entire future of Minecraft modding, I really genuinely do hope you enjoyed this video. And I also hope it's cool to see how my style has changed over time. So with that, remember to subscribe and have a great rest of your day. The one thing I didn't cover in this video were Minecraft's YouTubers. So if you want to learn more about one of those, this video here is a great place to start.